What's up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. JB Wins, Dogon SS here for another edition of Conscious Approach on YouTube. Thank you to everybody who is tuning in. Major shouts out to the community. As I always like to say, check us out Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Just trying to be available in any and all places possible. If you are so inclined to hit that like button or that subscribe button, it is indicative of your appreciation of the quality of content and that it adds some value to your viewing experience, which is the highest form of flattery. We certainly don't take that for granted, so we always want to make that a point of order every time we start each of these videos to make you know, or to make sure that you know that we don't take it for granted and we have not forgotten it. But other than that, as always, man, JB Wins, Dogon SS. Happy to be here with you guys, kicking it for another edition of Conscious Approach, as we always like to do. Have a lot of interesting topics to kick around the campfire tonight, so we're going to go ahead and get right into it. First thing that we are going to do is talk about something that is, I would say, is definitely on brand for Conscious Approach, but also extremely unavoidable in terms of Conscious Approach. I don't think this particular topic we would have been conducting Conscious Approach malfeasance if we would have elected to not talk about this. So we can't do that in good faith and good conscience. We cannot do that. So we are going to go ahead and talk about it. For anybody who has been living under a rock, Sheronne Moore used to be the head football coach for the University of Michigan before he was fired by the university for carrying on an inappropriate relationship with a staff member. The story gets ugly, guys. Apparently, first of all, the man is married with children. But beyond that, he, was giving her raises. You know what I'm saying? He was just, he was undergoing all sorts of weird behavior. Once the university found out about it, they canned him. He was then charged with felony counts for like aggravated assault or home invasion or some sort of a trespassing charge or something like that. We'll look this stuff up, of course, but it just gets deranged by the day. Allegedly, he was saying that that this woman ruined his life, and so he doesn't know if he wants to live. Just weird stuff, man, going on with this guy. But he was previously the head football coach at the University of Michigan, but now he is no longer the head coach of the University of Michigan. And Ryan Clark was on ESPN First Take that week, giving his thoughts on the matter. And Ryan Clark offered up his idea or his thought that this particular situation can be damaging to future black head coaches looking for opportunities. Jemele Hill, someone who used to work for ESPN, co-signed this notion. She believes that this is a situation in which future black coaches can be held to account for Sheronne Moore's decision making. So that's the angle that we are going to approach this story from. But of course, we will talk about the story in general. This says Ryan Clark suggests Sheronne Moore's actions will make it harder for future black coaches. During a recent installment of First Take, Ryan Clark suggested that former University of Michigan football coach Sheronne Moore's firing over alleged inappropriate conduct and his subsequent arrest could have consequences for future black coaches. I think from the Sheronne Moore point of view, you have to look at his failures as well. He failed, if these things are true, he failed his family. He failed the young men he was of leading and coaching, and he also failed a community of coaches who would love to follow him to get an opportunity to coach at a historically great university like a Michigan. That was the opportunity that he had that he failed at. And we also have to think about this young lady who was a subordinate and what these accusations or what these actions will do to her for the rest of her life. Clark highlighted that the firing is significant because he was the first black head coach at the University of Michigan. There's also a community of coaches that would love to follow in your footsteps that will be judged because of your actions. He does have to, at some point, acknowledge that he has to be held accountable for that, whether these things are true and someone was and someone was after him or not. If you're Michigan, you're coming from two head coaches in a row, Jim Harbaugh and also Sheronne Moore, that have let the university down in some way. He added that he believes that due to his race, he would not be afforded the opportunity to rebound in the way that Bobby Petrino did. Petrino was dismissed from his position as the head coach at the University of Arkansas in 2012 for covering up an extramarital affair with a member of staff at the football facility, but he has since continued to serve as a coach at various other schools. He will be treated like Michael Haywood, who in 2010 was supposed to be the next head coach of the University of Pittsburgh. I just don't think we could skip over how this situation is for Sheronne Moore and the decision making his situation and the decision making this situation he put himself in. Earlier this week, Moore was fired from his position as the head coach at Michigan University after an investigation found credible evidence that he engaged in an inappropriate relationship with a staff member. Shortly after he was fired, he was detained by police in Saline, Michigan. When the full details of his arrest have revealed, 911 dispatch audio obtained by TMZ featured a woman accusing Moore of attacking her and stalking her for months. Jemele Hill echoed Clark's thoughts in a post shared on X, responding to Dov Kleeman's accusing her of saying that Moore was fired because he's black. What I said was that Sheronne Moore's firing is being used by some as some sort of example that there is a wider problem among black coaches, or as an example of why it will be harder to justify hiring black coaches. I find both to be a wider example of how the actions of one black person is often used to paint all black people with a brush. This doesn't indict black male coaches any more than Lane Kiffin or Bobby Petrino's actions indict white coaches, but the difference is that white coaches often get a chance to rehabilitate. So this was Jemele Hill's tweet. I'm sorry comprehension escapes you, but I didn't say that. What I said was that Sheronne Moore's firing is being used by some as some sort of an example that there is a wider problem among black coaches, blah, blah, blah. That was in response to this Kleeman guy's tweet. Yikes, Jemele Hill says that Michigan head coach Sheronne Moore was fired because he is black and that white coaches get second chances. Though I think Sheronne Moore is a cornball, before we start painting his firing, Mel Tucker's and Ime Udoka's as some kind of indictment of black, so on and so forth. She concluded that she doesn't care about Moore and that he earned whatever is coming, but it's not right that black coaches will likely pay for what he's done. So Ryan Clark and Jemele Hill are both under the idea that this situation is going to be detrimental to black coaches moving forward. Your thoughts on what they had to say, as well as your general thoughts on this situation, if you had any of those.
All right, so let me address Ryan Clark and Jemele Hill. I didn't know Jemele hopped in on this, but she can't help herself. Look, man, I think that them blowing this up on their platforms and and using, see, there's a difference between pointing out certain things and race baiting. If you come correct with your argument because you believe in conspiracies or whatever, if you come correct in it, you can paint a picture to where somebody can look at it and go, I see your point there. I don't agree or whatever. But when Ryan Clark and Jemele Hill are giving their takes on things, it's baitish. It's laid out in a way where it's not well rounded, and it just comes off as like that person tweeted and said, "Oh yeah, he got fired because he's black, and white coaches get second chances." It gets boiled down to that, and I just really think that the way that they go about addressing these things could be better. When I saw Ryan Clark, I saw the clip of Ryan Clark saying, "Oh, he failed his family. He did." As soon as he said failed his family, failed his team, I just cut it off. I didn't want to hear it because I already knew where he was going with this. Um, and then later on, I saw, Uncle Luke, addressing Ryan Clark, basically saying that, no, this does not put, a negative stigma and stuff like that on black coaches. There's a lot of good black coaches out here, and and you saying stuff like that helps the cause of whatever the hell you're talking about.
Yes.
And so lazy narratives like what Ryan Clark and Jemele Hill just did there is probably worse than what Sheronne Moore did, because it takes what Sheronne Moore did and magnifies it. So that's what I don't care about, these types of takes. So to address the situation as a whole, bro was wilding out, man. I don't know what he thought. I don't know what he was thinking. Clearly he wasn't doing much, you know. And all this stuff is alleged, I guess. But man, they got stuff out here now, allegedly, where there's OF models or
Yes.
OF model out here saying that, he flew me out. He was texting me at halftime during the Ohio State game.
Well, those are alleged only in that you don't know whether they're telling the truth or not. But
Right.
these women did say these things, though.
They said them. Yes. Yeah. So yeah, did he actually do these things? Who knows? But it's out there that he's out here OF modeling it, assistant splacking, and then crashes out after all of that. So the timeline was, and I'll let you go, but the timeline I saw this was Sheronne Moore was fired from Michigan. I thought it was performance based. I personally, I felt as though the university didn't even want to hire him in the first place. It was one of those things where internally the player said Sheronne Moore, Sheronne Moore, Sheronne Moore. So to keep things on its face or whatever, blase please, we hire Sheronne Moore. And also the Sheronne Moore hiring fits into my narrative of universities, professional teams hiring black coaches after scandals or somebody's getting fired, because they're a hard target to pin down. You can't really say he sucks. You can't really say this. So you have to say you like him. You have to say he's doing a good job. So he was fitting in that role. But 2 years of mediocrity and ugly football. I knew they were ready to get rid of him anyway. And to me, this fell in their lap. In a sense of, yeah, we can fire him over this. We don't like what we did. National Signing Day's over. Let's get him out of here. So once that happened, I was like, okay, well, whatever. And then I don't know, about an hour or a couple hours later, after me seeing that, now I hear that he got arrested for allegedly breaking and entering and threatening to harm people and himself. So I'm sure Sheronne Moore was in this place of, me personally, I feel as though he he was in a place where he got set up. He felt as though she ruined his life, his career. And I think that's why he took his aggression out on all the other stuff. But then I started seeing his other behaviors, and it just seemed like this guy was what's the word?
It was Shannon Sharping.
Yeah, he was Shannon Sharping. He was what do you call these fringe? French. He was low key a bit of a loose cannon. vices was taking him over. So so after seeing all this other stuff about the OF stuff and him doing stuff during the Ohio State game allegedly and all this other stuff, it was just like, yeah, this guy was a little bit you know, screw loose kind of thing. And so all in all, I think it's an unfortunate situation. Although I laugh at times at it, I still think it's sad overall. But to tie this back in with the Ryan Clark and Jemele Hill thing, I think this is a Sheronne Moore situation and not an indictment on all black coaches. I think that's lazy, low hanging fruit, and yeah, they shouldn't have went there with it because now there's going to be people out there that are going to start thinking and feeling this way because this narrative is now out there. But what are your thoughts, man, on all of this here, man? On Ryan Clark, Jemele Hill saying that Sheronne Moore is out here making it bad for all black coaches, and just the situation as a whole, man. What are your thoughts?
I agree with you, and I agree with them. I agree with you, and I disagree with them,
Mhm.
which shouldn't come as a surprise. Um, I think that it's lazy. I'm gonna try to address. I'm gonna try to address the situation and their comments kind of at the same time.
Mhm.
So I disagree with the both of them.
Mhm.
I think it's lazy logic, and I think that this is uniquely a Sheronne Moore situation.
Mhm.
Um, this is only going to impact future head coaches who are sexually undisciplined.
Mhm.
That's what I think. I don't think it's a race thing. I think it's going to impact future head coaching prospects who are prone to being sexually undisciplined and allowing that to take control of their decision making and get out of control. Um, you know, you know, a lack of sexual discipline is something that is impacting men. Well, it's impacting humans in general. It's
Mhm.
impacting humans in general, but women are being paid for their lack of sexual discipline. And a lack of sexual discipline is costing men money and resources and jobs. And
Mhm.
that's the difference between the two. So it's uniquely impacting men because where it's allowing women a platform to get on and make money, doing these things is getting these guys fired. And so that's where there's a difference between the two. But overall, just sort of as a greater, more existential remark, this kind of thing is impacting all humans in general.
Mhm.
However, this is not to do with race necessarily. It has to do with people who are in these positions to potentially have these opportunities. But if being sexually undisciplined or otherwise being prone to any of these sorts of vices, which can allow them to be exposed in any kind of way, those are the individuals to whom are at risk of not being afforded opportunities or having it cost them opportunities in the future. In this day and age, post George Floyd, post 2020, when entities are always cognizant of, at the very least, appearing to be on the right side of history, they cannot afford to even remotely make it seem as though they are discriminating against any non-white people, because then the real hammer is going to come down on them, both from
Mhm.
a public relations standpoint and from a corporate dollar standpoint. They can't necessarily sustain that kind of a blow. So the best thing that they can do is make sure that they appear to be on the right side of history by giving these individuals chances. So I do not believe that this is something that is going to impact black coaches into the future. I don't. And I do think that it's a lazy remark that stokes a flame of anxiety, because now people are going to be on the lookout for this and making these claims. And it's going to cause a lot of, in my opinion, unwanted and unneeded aggressive conversations that could spill over into actual conflicts, which in this day and age, in my opinion, is unnecessary.
Mhm.
This idea of black coaches no longer having opportunities. You see, when they talk like this, it's a situation in which if you don't introduce the nuance into the conversation on the back end, your point is going to appear to be correct, because optically on the back end, when you look at the disparity of black head coaches versus non-black head coaches, you can connect the dots via squinting and make the claim that situations like this do impact that. But in my opinion, you have to appropriately introduce the nuance. The fact of the matter is, college football, very much like the NFL, is a cabal. The vast majority of the individuals who are in the positions to make hiring and firing decisions look a certain kind of way and come from a similar shared experience and background. Familiarity is the primary way that most people offer up opportunities. So long as all of the presidents of the universities and all of the athletic directors statistically look a certain kind of way or come from a specific kind of a shared background, the likelihood that the vast majority of the individuals getting these opportunities are going to look like them is going to persist. That doesn't mean that there's an overt malicious thing going on where there is a form of gatekeeping dictating we need to keep black coaches out. It just means that the people who are in positions of authority, who are in charge of hiring and firing, are going to make decisions that people in positions of authority who are in charge of hiring and firing typically make.
Mm-hmm.
That's just kind of the way this thing boils down. So like I said, on the back end, their comments would appear to be accurate because you are going to have this dearth of Sheronne Moore looking people who are coaching at these blue blood historic institutions and universities.
Mm-hmm.
But I would guarantee you that at the majority of these blue blood historic universities, I don't have the information right here in front of me. It's a speculation, but I feel pretty confident in saying at the vast majority of these institutions, the athletic directors are white, the presidents of the universities are white, and the majority of the rich boosters who contribute to the university are also white.
Mm-hmm.
So there's an apparatus in place in college football, particularly at places like Michigan and Ohio State, Notre Dame, Florida State, where I went, places like this, which stipulate that more likely than not, there's going to be a particular kind of individual who's going to preferentially be given these opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
So until you address and sort of break down the apparatus that's in place, this body of power that's in place,
Mm-hmm.
you'll never be able to get to the root of why more black coaches aren't getting opportunities. But as it's currently constructed, even with that cabal in place, that's going to be the primary reason why Michigan or other universities may or may not hire their next black head coach because the power structure dictates that more than likely it's going to be somebody who looks like them. So
Mm-hmm.
when you address that, then you can address all the rest of this stuff. But without introducing the nuance on the back end, it just looks like now Sheronne Moore and Sheronne Moore lookalikes aren't going to get chances. And in my opinion, it's a lazy form of addressing the real reason as to why their statement optically is otherwise true.
Well said, man. And I agree. And to at least from my perspective, I'll expound on that. Um, there's black coaches. Black coaches are just like anybody else in a sense of you do your job, then there's no problem. But when you're a black coach and you're not up to par, they're going to find a way to get rid of you. And for white coaches as well, they're trying to, with all of these buyouts and stuff, it's best to find a reason to fire these people with cause. But to speak on your point from the cabal standpoint, when you're black, there's extra eyes on you, and you gotta kind of have to be on code. Like in corporate America, there's a whole terminology called code switching, and you have to be on code. Sheronne Moore having a white wife was on code. anybody in the audience, but that's on code. You're part of. You don't see race. You don't see any of that. You're part of the code. You're articulate and all these things. But Sheronne Moore, his behavior sound like he's a YN in his core. But in the interviews and everything else, man, I'm sure he was knocking out of the park being on code. You better keep that act up. Marcus Freeman, for instance, at Notre Dame, he's completely on code. I mean, he's got he's got the perm in his hair, speaks well, interracial marriage. You have to look the part, be the part to be in a corporate setting, because they're basically putting you out in front of everybody at these universities or whatever, and you have to, as a black man, represent the university well. So you have to be on code. With Sheronne Moore, if he just was married and was just doing his job and then failed, normally no extracurricular stuff or whatever, and they fired him and had to give him a buyout, they would have probably waited, and to probably next season, because next season wasn't going to be good either, and then fire him, and then pay him that money. But if you can fire him with cause, is all the more better, because you don't have to do the payout, blah, please, whoop de whoop. And I know for a fact, I don't have anything in front of me or whatever, but Sheronne Moore is not the only person that did this, across college football, across professional sports, who's splacking off at the office that everybody knows about. You're just the black guy doing it. And when you're the black guy doing it, you can't do what everybody else does. You're not them. Even if you're married into it or whatever, you're not them. I don't know how many times I've been at jobs and stuff like that where there's other people doing stuff. I better not dare do those things, because then I'm the one that's going to get rolled up. I'm the person, because of how what's going on. I got to be on code, and I have to behave myself. And Sheronne Moore, from the sounds of it, he wasn't behaving himself. He was acting like he was everybody else, and you not everybody else. Like, you have to read the room. So I bring up Marcus Freeman because he's a great example. He's at a blue blood institution, and he's on code. He better not slip up. Ime Udoka was at a blue blood in the NBA in the Boston Celtics, and he's living like, what I'm saying? And you can't do that.
I still have a lot. I still to this day have questions about that one.
The Udoka situation?
Yeah.
I mean, he was, what I'm saying? I don't know what he was doing, but you can't do what other people doing.
Well, that was just weird to me, because why, first of all, why was there a press conference to announce this? That to me was weird. And then who told who what? Like, that to me was just weird. I hear your point. I'm just saying I still got questions about that one. That one to me is the greatest example that validates everything you're saying, is the Udoka one. Because like, I can think of, like, when it comes to Sheronne Moore, I can juxtapose that to Bobby Petrino, right? Mm-hmm. And maybe I can make the case that across the board in college football, whether you're black or white, you'll get canned for acting up in that manner, because look at what happened to Petrino, and he's a white guy. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to what happened with Udoka, that's the one where I'm just like, okay, I'm not getting how that happened. That one to me to this day is still odd. Because I guarantee. Well, I don't want to say that. This is my belief. I don't want to. This is reckless speculation. We need a sound to play. We need a sound to play whenever we're about to recklessly speculate.
Yes.
But I would no. Men don't change, generally speaking. And I would imagine that whatever Udoka was doing at Boston, he's probably picked right back up, and he's still doing in Houston.
Yeah, that is reckless.
but the environment there and the circumstances there and things are a bit different there. Hence, no scandal. And the thing with Udoka is he wasn't even married. So
Right.
you know what I'm saying? It's just that one to me is just weird. But go
Well,
ahead.
but for Udoka, he was poking around with somebody's daughter, an important person's daughter.
Who worked for the
And
Celtics? Yeah.
right. And so it was frowned upon. And for me personally, it was frowned upon because who do you think you are? You know, what do you think this is? You think you're going to get away with this? We got something for you. Because of how these things are structured. And I'm telling you like this, man. He broke the code. Sheronne Moore. He broke the code. He did everything right to get to where he was at, and then again he started to show out as if he's part of the club, and you ain't. And he had a harsh reminder. He was just supposed to get fired. Sheronne Moore would have rebounded. He before all of this he had a pretty squeaky clean whatever. It was not a good look for him getting fired and all this other stuff. It wasn't. But I really thought, because back in my mind I was like, he's gonna go away for 2 years or whatever and pop up as a coordinator somewhere else. But him getting arrested, that was the wrap. So and to speak on what Ryan Clark and them saying, I don't think this is an indictment for all black coaches. I felt like black coaches were always um, in this position of understand where you're at, read the room, and be on code. And yes, other people can get away with this. Other people can do that. Other people, but you're not them, and you're gonna have to be aware of that. So same thing for Ryan Clark and Jemele Hill on ESPN. They have to be on code. They have to, and Ryan Clark does his job and race baiting. You know what I'm saying? That's part of his job.
Well, Jemele Hill's not there anymore.
She's not there, no. But
And
Ryan,
if you ask her, the reason why she isn't there anymore is because she was unwilling to, keep up with the code. Yeah, I'm
yeah,
pretty sure that's what she would say.
yeah, but she's still doing it from the comfort of her own home, and so. But I still think that yeah, I think black coaches, especially at these blue bloods, as you mentioned, they have to be buttoned up all the way, and you can't have this alternative lifestyle like Sheronne was having apparently, because because it was going to come out at some point. You know what I'm saying? Like when these OF models got your DM and credit card and all this other stuff, and you're supposed to be a married man at the house, this was going to leak somehow, some way anyway. He was being too messy. So, nah, man, you have to treat it like you're the president of the United States, as crazy as that sound, and keep it all the way buttoned up. He didn't. It got messy, and he got caught.
Yeah.
So, but I don't think this has anything to do with that coach somewhere right now that's the absolute bulldog that knows what the hell he's doing, knows how to recruit, knows how to motivate players and stuff like that, and wins all the time. That guy's going to get a job because these universities want to win. So I don't think that this has nothing to do with being black at all this other stuff when it comes to ruining future head coaches.
Correct. It does, but it doesn't. That's the thing.
Right,
It
right,
does, but it doesn't. And at the end of the day, the central issue is in this country, in college, American college football, especially at the vast majority of these big time Power Five, Power whatever universities. If you look at the fabric of the way that these places are constructed, and I spent 7 years going to one of these types of universities. All right. Um, the need for any individual to be on code is exacerbated by the power dynamic that exists in these institutions.
correct.
It's not about some overt malevolence. It's not, but that's why I don't really like the way Ryan Clark and Jemele Hill talk, because
Mhm.
they'll get people riled up to make it seem as though it's some form of overt malevolence. It's not that. The fact of the matter is, these places have a power structure in place, and the individuals at key positions of leadership and influence all have a shared background. They
Mhm.
all have a shared background for the most part. So whether it's the president of the universities, whether it's the athletic directors, whether it's the rich alumni who give millions of dollars to the university on an annual basis, these rich boosters, these individuals all look a certain kind of way.
Mhm.
And so when that persists, it creates an environment in which if you are not a part of that community and you're looking for opportunity, you're going to have to play ball in a certain kind of way. And until you address the need for there to be a deconstruction of that particular kind of power structure, where there's more presidents of these universities who are not white and more athletic directors who aren't white. Now they're hiring general managers. Those individuals need to not be white. You need more alumni at these universities who can give back in the tunes of millions of dollars per year that have an equitable stake and influence.
Mhm.
All of these things, in my opinion, will never happen. You
Mhm.
might get one or two of those to happen, but the likelihood that you can get all of those things to happen, to me, is non-existent. So forever, it's going to be this way, and so it serves the conversation the right amount of justice to contextualize it properly, in my opinion, instead of making it seem as though they're just out here rampantly looking for ways to target black head coaches. That
Mhm.
might be the case in a minority of situations, but
Mhm.
generally speaking, this is about the power structure that exists. And you can translate that same exact dynamic over into pro football. It's the same relationship. So, that's the thing that needs to be addressed more so than this idea that universities now are going to be saying we can't hire a black head coach because of what
Because of
Sheronne
Sharon
Moore
Moore,
did.
which is
Like that
ridiculous.
to me is a lazy way of addressing the conversation.
Absolutely. And I'll say this is because them addressing the nuance as we are, it's that's too much for network television, because
Yeah.
at that point you're talking about power dynamics and you're talking about other things.
But
So
Jemele Hill is sitting here doing it on her own Twitter, where she does have the room to address. I know I'm making
I
like I'm
got,
agreeing with you. Yeah, like she
yeah,
has the opportunity to address the nuance and on her own thing, and she doesn't do it.
can't help herself, man. She that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. She's tweeting as if she's still on ESPN or Fox or something like that. Like she still sounds like a gas bag.
Well, I
You know
think
what
she's.
I'm saying?
I think I believe. Don't quote me on this. I believe she still is a writer for the Athletic.
Oh,
So
there
I
you
think
go.
in some way, shape, or form, she's involved in mainstream media still.
And that's where that's coming from. Because if she's doing that, then she's poking the bear at the Athletic. So you can't talk like that. So all in all, man, yeah, it's just typical Ryan Clark stuff about it. When there's other topics where Ryan Clark is coming to the defense of black people, and I'm still on his helmet for being a weirdo about the conversation because he's race baiting and all this other stuff. And this is the other side of the coin. This is him doing his job at ESPN for antagonizing and putting out dangerous narratives. Because uh, I'm sure there's people out there um, that are really going to buy this and go, you know what? This is a black coach. Look at you, Doke. Look at Mel Tucker. Look at Mel Tucker wasn't winning, and he had a humongous buyout, so he needed to be fired with cause. Sheronne Moore was playing, that was mediocre football all season and last season. It wasn't looking good. You lose to Ohio State, y'all are not looking good. Um, Fired with cause. Win football games if you want to be in this position, and they weren't. And so, yeah, man, just tighten up out here, man. I don't think this is unique to black coaches from the regard of well, I don't think that this is what they're talking about in a sense of putting a stigma on all black coaches, because again, you look at Marcus Freeman, the guy's buttoned up, and I know a lot of schools right now that will hire Marcus Freeman. So it didn't taint what they're saying, that it taints it. So they need to get out of here with their dangerous rhetorics. But Ryan Clark, so long as he's got a microphone, he gonna be spewing it.
Yeah.
So it's crazy stuff, man.
Yeah, I don't like it when they do it, but it is on brand for them for sure. I just to me it's a form of lazy logic in my opinion. But unfortunately not enough people are addressing the nuance. Like, let's talk about the existing power structure in these various organizations, in these associations. College football at this point is an association without having the word attached to its namesake.
Mm-hmm.
Which in short order I believe that's going to happen. But yeah, I don't like it either, but it is what it is. What can you do?
Yeah, man. Shout out to Ime Udoka, bro. Shout out. Hell no.
All right, we move on to more 50 Cent Diddy drama. 50 Cent trolling Diddy via this Netflix documentary. It's gone viral, has a lot of people talking. 50 Cent's doing all of this press for it. There's this conversation that came out of his press recently for this particular documentary, in which he suggests that snitching, or rather the stigma around snitching in hip hop specifically, is what allowed Diddy to operate unimpeded for as long as he did. So this says 50 Cent says snitching stigma in hip hop culture kept Diddy out of trouble. 50 Cent says he thinks the reason Diddy's transgressions didn't come to light earlier is because hip hop culture frowns on snitching. In a recent interview with awards focused outlet Gold Derby, Fifth addressed what he feels like industry players didn't speak out sooner about Diddy, who is serving prison time for prostitution related charges. It's part of hip hop culture. They think they're telling or something. The PIMP rapper executive produced Netflix documentary Sean Combs' The Reckoning, which describes a pattern of abuse and manipulation throughout Diddy's career. If I wasn't saying the things you heard me say, there would be nothing. You'd assume that the culture is for the behavior. Elsewhere in the video, 50 Cent addressed people who say he's petty when it comes to his beef with Diddy. So that's less important. Let me see if this video is not too long, because otherwise we can just go ahead and play it.
We're Root Insurance, and our drivers
Oh,
gave us a
of course
4.6-star rating. That's almost perfect, and we're proud of it.
So my process in these paintings is
You know what?
start in
So aggressive.
like general.
Bad.
Yeah, so that's an 18-minute video. We're not going to play all of that. But if the links for this article, of course, will be in the description of this video. Y'all can check that out for yourself. But yeah, 50 Cent suggests that the idea that you're telling on Puff, and the aversion to this notion that you're telling on people, is the reason why he was able to do what he did, and for as long as he did, with impunity. You think there's any credence to that?
Only slightly. I think that yeah, there may have been people out there that was like, look, I'm not no snitch, so I'm not gonna tell. But I think that's more of a problem in in hip hop culture, period. I don't think that was unique to the Diddy situation. Diddy, in my opinion, was plugged in, and he was an industry man. A lot of important people went to his stuff, and if you were close enough to Diddy to be assaulted by him, then you're not only afraid, in my opinion, you're not only afraid of just Diddy if you tell. So I don't think it's so much the no snitching thing, which I think is a problem. So I agree with 50 in the sense that, you know, the no snitching thing in hip hop culture, getting away with stuff. But Diddy, I don't think so. I think that he was part of a cabal, and a lot of people knew that. And if you went to snitching on him, you was snitching on everybody else that was in that room and stuff like that. And these people can make people disappear. They can ruin your life. They can ruin your career and all this other stuff. So I can't go for that. But I do think at large the no snitching thing needs to go away. Will it? I've been seeing pushback on it. I know our generation upheld it for a little bit, but I think we push back on it. And I know the younger people think that kind of stuff is kind of lame anyway. So, but it's still out there. It's still replete in our community. But overall, I can't go for that. I think that this was more of a situation of he was a powerful man and facing all those charges with the feds and stuff like that, and getting the amount of time that he got and all that other stuff too, speaks to the amount of influence and power that he had in this industry. And I don't know if you want to cross that. So, and I don't think this had anything to do with snitching. I think that this had everything to do about power dynamics and stuff like that. But what are your thoughts, man, on what 50 Cent had to say, saying that the only reason why Diddy got away with it for so long is because of this no snitching thing in hip hop? What are your thoughts, man?
Yeah, I don't see it that way either. I think that this was about money, honestly. Diddy's net worth currently estimated at around $400 million. What allows people like this to continue to operate is people around him who are in the know are being paid to keep quiet about it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, are these people being paid directly, as in, I'm going to pay you this much to not say anything? No. It's more so of a situation where if you're around him, whether you work for him, you can be an employee, maybe he hires you for your services to do stuff for his events or his parties or his music. If you're one of his engineers, one of his producers, if you're in his cipher in any kind of way, if you're in his universe, you stand to gain much financially via your association with him, which stands to reason if he goes to prison for anything, that gravy train is going to stop and you're going to have to find a way to replace it. So whether it was people who were directly employed by him who could or could not have been in the know, or whether it was individuals in his immediate vicinity who could or could not have been in the know, I believe that a wealthy person has a long leash to continue to do what they do if it's inappropriate behavior in any kind of way, because people don't want to cut off that gravy train. If there's one thing that we know about humans today, it is that the arms race for economics and resources has never been more of a dogfight than it currently is to now. There is an arms race for the acquisition of money and resources that is unlike anything before. When you talk about the distribution of wealth in this country, the wealth gap that continues to get wider, haves and have-nots, all these resources that continue to rise in cost, life in general continues to get more and more expensive, and the manner by which people are earning money is not rising in a way that's commensurate with how much it's continuing to rise in terms of expenses. So because of that state, because those are the states of affairs, human nature kicks in and you're more willing to turn the other cheek and ignore things that you otherwise should be paying attention to and reporting on, because of the fact that you want to continue to have this source of income coming into you. That's the reason why I think he operated for as long as he did. I would imagine there were a ton of people who were making money off of him, whether it was he hosted a lot of parties, he hosted a lot of events. So if you were a service provider in any kind of way, if you were a party planner, an event planner, anywhere from the, if you were or an actual performer on down to if you're a technical technician, you work lights, stage, pyrotechnics. If you were a caterer, you did food, decorations. If you were an event planner yourself and he hired you and outsourced the work, or if you were a direct employee, like I said before, if you worked under his music outfit, or a producer, an artist, an engineer, a sound designer, if you were a brilliant beat maker, if you were on the computer, if you worked for his Ciroc thing, if you sold any of his products, if you were in his universe in any capacity whatsoever, there is a chance, and I'm not suggesting that there were a certain amount of people who did know. I'm just saying that there is a chance that if you were in his universe in any kind of way, you could have come across some kind of an indication, some intel, something, or you could have been invited to one of these things. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people were in position to be privy to this. And in my opinion, the reason why it didn't become more widespreadly known is because people did not want to see their association with him. Therefore, the money that they stand to gain via that association become compromised via him getting bammed up. So, yeah, is there a snitching culture in hip hop that persists? Yes. Is it problematic? Yes. Uh, could it potentially have something to do with him continuing to do this? Maybe. But in my opinion, this is about money. People do what they do because people are able to do what they do for as long as they do it because people are getting paid. And no one wants to stop being paid, especially nowadays.
When you look at Harvey Weinstein, Jeffrey Epstein, that guy that got busted for that model guy that was getting weird with all the male models. I don't know if it was Aeropostale or it was one of those things. This went on for years for all of these guys. They're not hip hop. So this plays into somewhat of what you were saying is that I know for those models for that guy, I forgot what company that was, but for those male models, they got eventually tricked into being, trafficked and stuff like that, but they were down for it initially, or they were down for whatever initially because they thought there was opportunity on the back end, no pun intended. All right. And so the same thing in the acting world where, Harvey Weinstein and all this other stuff, and in the political realm with Jeffrey Epstein. So in hip hop, Diddy was just doing that. He was the apparently, head honcho in the hip hop realm. So Diddy got away with it for a long time. Those other people got away with it for a long time. And in those other cultures and in those other situations, they didn't have a no snitching clause because of hip hop. It was due to power dynamics. It was due to money and influence. And some of these people willingly putting themselves in a position because they thought that on the back end, they were going to reap some type of reward. And there's been a lot of people I know, I'm sure, that wanted to be actors, thought that busting it down at a Weinstein party was going to get them on TV, and we never saw that. We never saw them. We never saw their name or anything like that. Some of those models and stuff like that, and maybe even some people in politics and stuff like that, and serving themselves up, being a part of these weird endeavors, and they never made Senate or whatever. That's how the game goes. And even those people didn't snitch. But then, of course, once it comes out, however it comes out, then the floodgates open and all the other victims say, hey, man, I was a part of this too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I was promised X, Y, and Z, and, they only gave me XXX, right? So it's like, hey, man, well, hey, that's how it is. That's how it is, in that realm. So none of that, in my opinion, has to do with hip hop, no snitching clauses. I ain't gonna snitch on Diddy because I'm a real. It was like, no, that ain't what's going on, bro. You know what I'm saying? And I'm sure there's some levels of shame and embarrassment because most of the people he was preying on were men. And you coming out and you're, Mr. Hard rapper, Mr. Hard R&B singer or whatever. And you saying that, he had you bunny hopping at a tennis court, that ruins your image, which is kind of one of the reasons why they get into these weird things is for power and control. If people were really talented and it was a merit-based system, then these non-talented people like Weinstein and and Diddy Puff, they will never be at the top. They get at the top of the food chain because they're willing to do this stuff, willing to extort people emotionally and all these other things, physically, and hold these people in this type of psychological bondage of, hey man, if I expose this or if I do this too much or whatever, then they're going to expose the fact that I slept my way to the top or whatever. And it's part of the dynamic. He recorded you. It's like all kinds of weird stuff, man. So that's why it's never worth it to sell yourself for anything. So Diddy was doing the music industry or whatever, but there's people who sell themselves all the time for opportunity, quote unquote. And so that has nothing to do with no snitching clauses. That has everything to do with people offering themselves up in many cases, because I highly doubt, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I don't know what was going on with that baby oil and stuff, or, him spraying people with it. I don't know what all that stuff is, but, I know he had a lot of willing participants. Now they weren't, all the way in for it, but there was a conversation to be had of, hey, this is how I'm living. You trying to be down? And I'm sure a lot of those people said yes because they thought that's how to get to the top. So I'm not excusing Diddy Puff. I think he's a creep. But no, I don't think this has anything to do with no snitching clauses.
Yeah, I don't either. I think, if Diddy or a rep for Diddy shows up to your distribution center and wants to order 10,000 bottles of baby oil, it might strike you as a bit odd that a person wants that much baby oil for a party or an event. One might think that that's a little bit odd,
right?
But how much does your company stand to make by having him pay your distribution center for the inventory of baby oil that he's going to need at this party? Once that invoice clears, you can care less what's going on. You just want that invoice to clear because you want to make the money. You want to get the sale. You need the business.
Exactly.
So what I'm suggesting is that's what was going on replete throughout his time doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Is whether it was an individual or a business or a company or whomever or whatever, there were a lot of vested, interested parties around him that stood to earn a lot of money via his freedom. If he's incarcerated, locked up, or if he gets trouble, the gravy train stops, that business relationship becomes no more.
Mm-hmm.
So that's bad for business. Morality wise, it's good, but it's bad for business. And human nature dictates these days, and we can argue whether this is a good or bad thing or whether it just simply is. But human nature these days stipulates that financial stability, particularly into perpetuity, is more important than upholding a good, positive moral compass.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just the way people are wired nowadays. That's just the state of affairs. So I think that it was more so about his financial influence more than it was about individuals deciding that it's more wrong to tell on him than what it is that he's actually doing. I don't think it was that. I think it was the fact that people were making money off of it.
Yep.
Period.
Or seeking opportunity. Or seeking
either one. Yeah,
so.
Basically same deal. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I agree on that. Yeah, there's probably a whole lot of people thought that opportunity was right around the corner and it never happened. And that's certainly what the entertainment industry is. So go figure.
Hey, man. One thing that this whole thing has exposed and all of those other scandals that I mentioned is that, the price of fame is very high. And if you're willing to sell your dignity and sell yourself, go for it. But if you're just trying to be a moral, upstanding person yourself, and you want to be able to sleep good at night and things like that, maybe fame and fortune and all this other stuff isn't worth it. So I think there was a lot of people that were tricked and duped into believing that they wanted to be a celebrity, they wanted to have that lifestyle, they wanted to whatever. So they were willing to do whatever to get to the top. But all I heard from everybody that was in his wake was regret. So one thing about it is this is a hell of a case study and great empirical data for future generations to not sell themselves to be a part of any of these industries. So
yeah. 50 Cent, man, 100% a friend of the channel. That
yeah.
is undoubtedly true. He is a friend of the channel and one of the biggest trolls that we feature here on the, on the channel. But don't agree with his take here. I don't think it was about snitching. I think it was about money, and it often is about money.
Crazy.
Next up, we have another friend of the channel, The Game. Did we talk about The Game last week?
I think it was a couple weeks ago, maybe.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think the last time, what was the last time that we talked about The Game?
Yeah, that's when he was hanging out with Kurt Franklin and them. So that was a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, right. Yeah, he was talking about, being vulnerable and not being loyal to women or something. Something like that, yeah. So now The Game was on Club Shay Shannon Sharp show, and they got onto the subject of family and all of this kind of stuff, and question was posited to him, and The Game basically said, barring a couple of rules being violated, he is not opposed to dating a friend's ex. So this says The Game says he'd date a friend's ex if there was no marriage or kids involved. But The Game is once again sparking debate online, this time over loyalty relationships and where friendship lines should be drawn. During an appearance on Club Shay Shay, the Compton rapper told host Shannon Sharp that he doesn't believe dating a friend's ex is automatically off limits as long as certain boundaries are never crossed. The candid moment came as Sharp pressed Game on friendship codes and romantic ethics. I think I'm cool with that. Love is a mysterious fruit. The person that's dating your homie might be your soulmate. And if he didn't marry or have children with her, then she moves back into the single market. Game explained that in his view, the seriousness of the prior relationship matters. If there was no marriage or children involved, he believes the situation changes. Elsewhere in his Club Shay Shay appearance, The Game issued an apology to Kim Kardashian for his past comments about her, most notably sexually explicit lyrics in an unreleased 2019 track. So that pretty much goes on to a different subject, talking about the Kardashians. But The Game doesn't necessarily believe that dating a friend's ex is off limits unless there's marriage or children involved. Does he make a point?
I mean, in somebody's world, I guess. To me personally, I don't think that's ethical. I feel like there's a very big ocean out there. There's lakes and ponds and streams, rivers. There's plenty of places to catch a new fish. Doing it locally and grabbing something that was already in somebody else's bucket is kind of lame. And now if it's a situation where, they're dating or, dating in quotes, what people call dating nowadays is, they talking on the phone, texting, a date night here, DMing, a smash here, a smash there, and it was just splacking. If it was a splack situation, then at that point, fair game, I would say it's fair game if it was just a jump off, but are you dating at that point? I mean, technically, I guess, but I think if there was any relationship there, then bro, just go somewhere else. You're flipping the game, are you not? Like, like, what are you doing? But this is these industry guys messing around with the same floors. So I wouldn't be surprised if rapper XYZ is dealing with this type of girl and he considered that guy homeboy and now he wants to have his turn. That's a weird industry. So I wouldn't be surprised if I know a lot of that's going on. So he's probably referring more or less to that. But him suggesting these things for the masses for consumption to act as though, people should be doing this in their local areas. I would just tell them to watch out. It's not clean. Just go find yourself something else. But again, if it's a jump off situation where everybody's splacking and you want your turn for whatever reason, then go and do that. And I don't see anything wrong with that, honestly, because she's letting everybody have it. You know what I'm saying? But if it was an actual situation, I don't think there needs to be marriage or kids involved for them to have an actual situation where those two actually have feelings. Even if she is a jump off, if your boy had feelings for her, don't do it. So I think that there's just plenty more stuff going on out here, and that you don't have to partake in this. Just go get you something else for real. And last thing I'll say is, if you call this person your friend or whatever,
Right.
whatever, it's like, okay, bro, while I was dealing with her, bro, were you eyeballing my old lady? Did you have conversations with her while I was still talking to her? It's just way too much room to mess up something that you would call your homeboy. So me personally, I just don't think it's worth it. There's plenty of jump offs in the sea. Go find those. But what are your thoughts, man, on the game saying that, hey, man, he don't see nothing wrong with hooking up with a friend's ex? You buying this?
Whenever we have these kinds of topics here, you always do a good job of, well, you do a much better job than I do of contextualizing it around the world that these individuals live in, and juxtaposing that to their comments. So I thought about that when I saw this, because I said to myself, at first, I was like, I think that this is asinine. But then I had to remember he comes from this hip hop cesspool where very much like, the NBA or the NFL, for the most part, these guys are all passing around the same chicks.
Right.
So it stands to reason that he's encountered this several times, and it's pretty much standard behavior at this point.
Correct.
That once one guy's done with this one girl, if you're interested in her, then you'll go ahead and take your shot at her, because it's a rotating, revolving door of the same women in these industries. And so I have to keep that in mind. These guys are already sharing the same women anyway.
Right.
They're already living in the same cesspool anyway. And so you have to frame those types of comments around that context. However, I do, again, if I am going to somewhat extrapolate what he's saying, I do believe in the notion of a trickle-down effect. And I've said that on this channel before. And I do think that even though something can be properly contextualized within the parameters of celebrity, entertainment industry culture, if the rhetoric is spoken into existence and consumed enough by enough people in mass, in my opinion, celebrity entertainment industry type behavior can find its way to seep into the collective consciousness of the rest of the population.
This is dangerous rhetoric, bro.
Yeah, to the point where everyone else will glean it as typical behavior, pay it no mind, everyone's doing it, so it's no big deal.
Correct.
It's kind of like sex working, where now sex working has been aggressively mainstream to the point where now it's just typical behavior, even though it's not. I bucket this in the same category. So where I will give him a pass is he can't help himself. He lives in the multiverse of the entertainment industry, where if you are not comfortable enough to be your own unique self and you want to live in the surface world, you're going to be passing around the same women that the rest of these guys have already had. That's the world that he comes from, and so be it. It is what it is. But this is not something, in my opinion, that is replicatable in the general population. Now, just because I don't think it's replicatable doesn't mean that people won't replicate it, because they will. I
Mhm.
just think that replicating this type of ideology does present certain untenable consequences in the long run.
Yes.
And we're already seeing the fruits of that bear out with all of these things that we talk about that people are trying to downplay and cast off as not a big deal, but
Mhm.
they are. Like the increased instances of these diseases, and and the increased frequencies of things like single parent households. Okay, if we continue to dilute the notion of sexual responsibility and
Mhm.
just make it a situation where it's like everybody's fair game and just do what you do and there are no rules, then we're going to continue to have the exacerbation of some of these more damaging societal dynamics, in my opinion. And to kind of bring it back home to the central theme of what he's talking about, that's the kind of thing that you can believe in if you come from that weirdo world where you're all passing around the same women anyway.
Mhm.
But in the regular world, where, as you put it, there's all of these other women out here, if you my dog, if you my homeboy, as good as I think my homeboy's ex-girlfriend is,
Right.
there's another girl somewhere that looks just as good as her somewhere
Right,
and
bro.
has no affiliation with my friend. So I'm
Correct.
gonna go talk to her. I'm not gonna go deal directly with my friend's ex, whether
Exactly.
there is children or marriage involved or not,
Mhm.
because it has the potential to create complications.
Yeah,
Especially,
very high
es-
potential.
yeah, especially when you're dealing with civilians and not someone who's in the entertainment industry who has a
Mhm.
date that's just a click or a tap or a DM away.
Correct.
So that's where I will depart from him and say that this is dangerous rhetoric. And I
Yes.
just hope that people will not believe that this is something to replicate, even though the way that things are moving out here in this culture, people are going to do it anyway.
Well, and that's the reason why when these celebrities do get on these podcasts or they do interviews or whatever, and they are talking, they make it seem like they're everyday people. They
Yeah,
make it seem like, oh yeah, you know what I'm saying, I could do it like this. And it's like, no, but you can't. You
yeah,
know, you have to qualify everything. But they don't do that.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, as you mentioned, bro, like when this is coming down people's feed and somebody subscribe to Club Shay Shay because you know what I'm saying, and leave those bot ass comments at the top of all his videos, and you know what I'm saying, oh the game, oh yeah the game, man, he's the best in the game. And it's like, man, please, bro. But there's people out here that really consume this stuff, watch it. There's people out there that are fans of the game, whether I like it or not. You know what I'm saying? Unironically, they like the game. And so they're hearing him say this, and they're going, you know what, bro?
Yeah,
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 Stacey ain't half bad. You know, like, bro, why you want to talk to Stacey? I used to talk to Stacey. You know what I'm saying? So there's going to be people out here that pick this ball up. It's different. It's different when there's context to all of this. So if this is, like I said, if this is a situation where you at work, there's a girl at work, you know what I'm saying, this girl was your work wife, you know what I'm saying, and bruh splat that, you know what I'm saying, they had a whatever, they don't deal with each other like that no more. She back on the market, and y'all at work, and it's a situation where, if this is your homeboy, a conversation is had, and it's just like, hey, bro, you know what I'm saying? Oh, nah, bro. Go ahead, Stacey, right there. If you get the go ahead, like, hey, bro, you know what I'm saying? Just turn Netflix on, And if it's one of those things, it's like, okay, well, because that's akin to the industry stuff he's talking about, where it's just like, hey, bro, I want my turn,
yeah,
Yeah, that thing she was doing with her tongue. He's like, yeah, man, all of that, man. And if bruh's down for that, because he don't care about that, it doesn't require marriage or kids. But if it's the same situation at work, you know what I'm saying? And then, he's dealing with this girl and they had something going on there. You know what I'm saying? Fall asleep on the phone together, talking. Like, no, you go to sleep. No, you go. They doing all of that stuff. And then, this is your homeboy or whatever, and you're still trying to deal with that can create the complications. So the qualifier is, was she a jump off or not? You know what I'm saying? If it is, then I guess that's a green light for you to go ahead and do that. But for me personally, I still think that can get way too messy.
It can.
It can get way too messy. And I just say to hell with it, man. Just go find something else. But nowadays, bro, these dudes are in the two mans.
Yeah.
So they into all of that stuff, man. So I don't know what they got going on. So it's a lot of freeness happening out here nowadays. But me personally, I think keeping it solid, man. I'm not calling somebody my homeboy and then doing something like that. Me personally. But again, when you're dealing with somebody like the game who shows no loyalty to anybody, I highly doubt he has friends.
Yeah.
So, he's coming from a situation where everybody is an associate to him. So who gives a damn? And honestly, I think him laying the qualifier out there, merge your kids, is cap. Because he'll do it anyway.
I do think so. Yes, I agree 100%. Because let that woman come to him with like, you trying to hit it or what?
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like that's his stipulations are more likely than not rooted in him asserting himself into the situation. Because if something comes to him or falls in his lap, I don't think that the marriage or the kids is going to matter. No. Because if she's throwing it at him, I think he'll take it, whether they were married with kids or not. Because at that point, she's the aggressor and he was just a willing participant.
Yeah, I couldn't help it, man. She like, bro, please, bro.
Oh, you need to holler at her. You need to holler at her. She came at me.
Yeah, man. So I'm not buying this from the game, bro. Dangerous rhetoric as usual. I'm not buying this, bro. But yeah, I honestly, if there's dudes out there that's considering this stuff, man, I would tell you to reconsider. It's just not clean.
It's not clean. I never understood it. Personally, it's weird because there's never been a moment in my life where a friend of mine wasn't talking to a woman and that woman was so attractive that I couldn't go out somewhere and see some woman somewhere that was at least just as attractive as her. Like, right. I've never experienced that before. So I've never understood this. I've never understood that particular kind of behavior of right. Like, shooting your shot at the homie's ex. I never really got it. There's just so many other women out there. I mean, they outnumber us,
Even saying that out loud, it just sounds gross, bro.
Yeah, I never.
That's not your homie at that point.
Yeah, but again, in his world, it's one of those situations where, when you're living in a cesspool, man, different rules apply. But it's the weirdest thing to see this stuff play out in real time, where I think that there are elements at play. Social media, the internet, consumerism, whatever you want to call it, that are actively trying to, transfix the cesspool into regular society so that it's all the same world.
100%.
Yeah. So that's the weird thing. And that's why I feel like comments like this are iffy, and it's other stuff that we talk about where these celebrities will say stuff. We're not addressing the celebrities directly. We're addressing the veracity of those comments and how they can impact the rest of the world.
Correct.
And so this is an example of that, because this is weirdo stuff. And I agree. I've already seen instances of this play out where you got friends who do this weird stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to mention no names, but I've just seen it where it's like, y'all friends and y'all are just comfortable doing this thing where y'all might share the same women. I think that it's borderline homosexual, in my opinion. If you ask me, I think it's borderline homosexual, but I've seen it play out. And so as these change agents, these influential people in our community continue to speak power to truth with these weird talking points like this, you'll start to see the behavior become replicated at a greater rate. And I just think it's weird.
Yeah, man. This stuff is getting normalized, whether we like it or not. But that's why we're here, man. We're here to push. We're here to push back, man. We're the resistance. You know what I'm saying? We're on the front lines, bro. We're the resistance to the anarchy.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, we're here to restore order, bro. And no, we don't agree with you. The game, this ain't it.
Yeah. Maybe he needs to just, hey, the game, man, stay in your lane, bro. Just if someone asked you to name top 5 name drop rappers of all time,
Right, bro.
you're very qualified to talk on that for sure.
Yeah, I would like to hear your opinion on that. But relationships, nah, dog. I don't need to hear that from you, man. Interpersonal, professional, or you know what I'm saying, romantic. I don't want to hear anything about relationships from that man.
Yeah, facts.
Crazy.
Oh, but he is a friend of the channel nonetheless. And now we have an interesting story involving someone who, if we talk about her a couple more times, she'll graduate to friend of the channel status as well. This individual, Sohpie Rain, who is popular because of how much money she earns on OnlyFans. The story went crazy over the fact that I believe it was like in 2023 or 2024, in a 12-month span, she made like $80 million or $90 million or something like that. And there was this one dude named Charles who by himself sent like $10 million to her OnlyFans. He's like her biggest benefactor. So this girl, who by the way, this woman is only 20 years old. I just want to continue to drive the point home about how weird this world increasingly becomes. She, posted, or rather, she co-signed a comment that somebody made on Twitter about how being on OnlyFans is more physically demanding than a 9-to-5 job. This says Sohpie Rain says her job before OnlyFans was more physically demanding. OnlyFans star Sohpie Rain compared her former restaurant job to her current work status, saying it was more physically demanding. Working a 9-to-5 means you're selling your body way more than any OnlyFans girl does, wrote one user on X. Rain responded, my waitress job was definitely more physically demanding. Despite Rain's pushback, some X-users posted harsh remarks about OnlyFans creators, calling them parasites and worse than sex workers. One post claimed waitresses actually get back to society, OnlyFans women don't. I hope you're feeling good right now because being a waiter sucks. I respect it, but it's effing hard, both physically and mentally. Another pinned. One post said, if we're being real, the actual dream is not having a job at all. While another joke, so funny and amazing and beautiful and strong and nice too. Rain, who has said she is religious and attends virtual church services, previously mentioned that she sets personal limits around what content she posts. You have got to have morals or else you're going to get lost in the industry. That's just what happens. It's really easy to listen to what someone else says and listen to them and try to follow what they do, but you have got to stay true to yourself, she told Fox News Digital earlier this year. The influencer also confirmed that she has not had sex despite speculation. I'm waiting for the right person, she said. Rain added that she recently invested in a 20-acre property and has plans to open a content house where creators collaborate on videos for social media. Rain has amassed a reported net worth of $95 million.
Jesus Christ.
20 years old. So there you have it. There's one person who said, hey man, being a 9-to-5 worker is more what did this person say? They said working a 9-to-5 means you're selling your body way more than any OnlyFans girl does. And she said that the waitress job was definitely more physically demanding. So go figure. But what do you make of this?
So, of course, as you like to talk about, these people trying to normalize things. Whoever said that comment,
This has to be another sex worker. It has to be.
I mean, if they're a regular person saying that, but you know they're a subscriber. You know what I'm saying? If they're not already an OF person.
Yeah.
But this explains that world, because that's the logic that they are echoing and is bumping off the walls, and they say, yep, yeah. A OF person. And it's like, physically, yes, you know, it is physically demanding. But when you're selling yourself on OF, you're not selling physical stuff. That's not the part of you that's being sold. You know, your dignity, your respect, those are the things that are being sold. And we talked about in the Diddy situation earlier, where people were selling themselves for an opportunity potentially. These are the people that are on drugs later. You know, they're sitting getting interviewed, they're breaking down and crying because they physically gave themselves up, their dignity and their all of these other things for a shot at an opportunity or whatever it is. So this girl, she can claim that she ain't clapped yet, you know what I'm saying, or whatever, but she probably hasn't clapped on film. All right. But there's a part of her, she is selling, even though she's probably only showing feet or whatever it is she's doing, she is still selling parts of herself. So much so that anytime that we do talk about her, she's spewing dangerous rhetoric. So she's already a lost person. So that part, the part of you that, and that's it's so cappish. You attend virtual church. Why do I need to know that? But that's part of her. That's part of her cap. That's part of what she got going on here. Hey, I'm a spiritual person, man. I'm a religious person, and I don't have sex on film. And it's like, look, she's in a very unique situation where she ain't clapping and getting 90 million. So, you know, I guess kudos to her, I guess. But she doesn't sound like she's all the way there. And she probably was never all the way there. But the more she goes down this path, the more she continues to do this. I mean, a content house, like, what is this? A Netflix movie? Like, what are you doing? But this is where she's at. And she will never, I won't say never. She's in a position right now that she sold so much of herself already, $90 million worth of it, that she's out of her mind. So somebody can work and bust ass and be a waitress or waiter or whatever, working 9 to 5 for 20 years. You know what I'm saying? Physically getting your ass kicked all the time, working overtime and all of that stuff. And they would still have more sense than somebody that made $90 million not working as hard physically. And I would say that the reason why that person that made $90 million is out of their damn mind is because they sold something that wasn't physical. So they can sit in their little echo chamber and, you know what I'm saying, rub and tug themselves as much as they want. But I'm not buying this dangerous rhetoric. And the fact that these types of things makes articles, makes it dangerous for consumers, because there's going to be people out there that go, damn, you know what I'm saying? Again, just like the game, there's going to be girls out there right now that's saying, man, you know what I'm saying? Me being a registered nurse wasn't really worth it. You know what I'm saying? They said I only have to show feet. That's how it begins. So Sophie ain't clapped yet on camera. For the right price, she will. But what are your thoughts, man, on this Sohpie Rain girl saying that, hey, somebody that works a 9 to 5 is selling themselves more than an OF person? What are your thoughts, man?
Yeah, I mean, I've said it before. There is an active effort to aggressively normalize and mainstream sex working. This is evidence of that, and I believe the strategy is working. You know, people are going to. I've also said before, that if it hasn't already become the general consensus, we're definitely on our way to it being the general consensus that being on OnlyFans, doing sex work, and all these kinds of things is tantamount to working a regular job. It carries with it the same amount of esteem or respect or normalcy as working in any other field of industry. This is social deconstruction at its finest, and this is what social deconstructors do. This is case study 101 of social deconstruction at work, in which the substantiation for this kind of work is the lack of physical labor involved.
Mhm.
So because a 9 to 5 involves a requisite amount of physical labor, OnlyFans is the better route to take simply because it requires less physical labor.
And you make more.
Yeah. But as you stipulated, no one ever questioned the feasibility of that kind of life long term
Correct.
based upon the amount of physical labor that you expend.
Correct.
That's never been the point of the conversation. The point of the conversation has always been the mental, emotional, psychological, and spiritual toll.
Correct.
That's always been the conversation. But that's not being addressed here. What's being addressed is the physical manual labor aspect of it, because there's really no way to address the other stuff. You can't combat that.
Mm-hmm.
So what I hate about this kind of comment is the conflation of physical labor with all of the other expenses that you put out into the universe via doing this kind of stuff on a regular basis. There's a conflation taking place there. And on the back end of that equation, it's the idea that because you're expending less physical labor than a 9 to 5, it's the better route to take in life. That's how a person who doesn't think for themselves is going to glean that kind of talking point.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I don't know how, I have to believe that it's some other OF person or some other sex worker. It has to be a stripper. I don't like someone who does adult movies. Someone in that line of work has to have been the one that made that comment, because otherwise, to me, that does not make sense. It doesn't make sense. That's never been the point of the conversation. In the history of never has an individual said the reason why you should work a 9 to 5 over being a sex worker is because being a 9 to 5er is more physically demanding. No one ever said that.
Mm-hmm.
That's never been a point of contention.
Mm-hmm.
Who's going to argue that?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, if you really wanted to take it there and get into the nitty gritty, I would argue that the physical labor involved between these two lines of work, if you want to call it that, is more comparable than you think.
Yeah.
It's just a different form of physical labor.
Correct.
But it's more comparable than you think. Is it working on an assembly line or working in a factory? No. But is it a form of physical labor nonetheless? Yes. Be that as it may, that's never been the point of the conversation. It's been about all the other things that you're expending in the process. But that is what social deconstruction is, to rewrite all of the baseline understandings that we have come to internalize as reasonable. So all of the various understandings that we have come to internalize as reasonable with respect to reasons why doing that kind of stuff isn't what's best for you, we want to deconstruct that so that we can create new rules. And what is one of those new rules? OnlyFans is the better route to take because you're not expending as much physical labor, when that wasn't a part of the conversation to begin with. So I don't know who you're trying to fool, this sleight of hand that these social deconstructors are trying to implement to fool people into believing that what you're doing is somehow redeemable. Like, I'm supposed to believe that. Like, oh, you know what? That's a good point. I now believe that OnlyFans is more redeemable than I used to, because I didn't take into account the fact that you're not physically taxing yourself as much.
Correct.
No person with intelligence is going to look at it that way.
Right.
That's ridiculous. But bro, this is social deconstruction at its finest, man. And I don't know if I don't believe that social deconstruction is a clinically defined term or one that's a part of like the educational lexicon, but it needs to be,
Yes.
because at this point it is at this point to me that is undoubtedly in a concrete strategy that is actively in play here. These individuals who are just trying to rewrite the world in accordance with their own image, as if they're the only ones who live in the world and can define these things for themselves and have everyone else believe it. No, I hope no one else is buying this. I really do, because that was never the point of the conversation in the first place.
It's it's gonna be them young people, man. So it's gonna be them girls that's what I'm saying, up to 25, 26, girls in their 20s. They're gonna be eating this up, the ones that was already on the fence, of course. And but I was thinking about it, man. This girl, because before it was like, oh, she made 90 million or whatever, OnlyFans, whatever, man. That's them, that's their life, whatever. But the fact that she made that much money is she's becoming a person that internet responds to. So she has a platform now because she has OF. And then with her platform, she chooses to do this. And then she spent that money on, what it said, 20 acres or whatever. How many acres was that? Just so she can build a content house?
Yeah, it's 20 acres, and it doesn't take a rocket science to imagine what kind of content is going to be made in this.
Oh, you already know it's going to be some Love Island garbage. It's going to be Love Island. You know what I'm saying? STI, STDs. That's what's going to be going on. And so before I was like, hey, bro, I would laugh it off. You would tell these dudes to cut off the OnlyFans, cut off all that stuff, and I'll laugh it off because they do need to stop. But now, when you're making somebody like this powerful,
yes,
that's a problem.
Yes.
And at this point, you're funding a war machine because she's now using her profits to now create a house where there's going to be minions of hers that are going to echo her world. So now she's going to have more of this. So it could be OF stuff, or it could be some Love Island stuff. All I know is going to be brain rot.
It's going to be degeneracy.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
So you're funding future degradation of society now. So at this point, it's not just $5 you just sent her, bro. You're literally funding the war machine to, as you say, deconstruct future generations. So yeah, this is deeper than you know what I'm saying, throwing money at a stripper, because that didn't help the cause either, because she was doing her own social deconstruction in her own neighborhood, having multiple baby daddies and all that other stuff, which added to the fodder of garbage that we have going on.
Yeah.
But I always looked at that as, I dismissed it. But now that I'm starting to see that you're funding, as a guy, you're now funding everything that you hate later. Now you want to get on here and everything you talk about. Now you want to get online and be red pilled and you hate all these women and stuff.
That's right.
But then have an OF.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're literally funding the war machine. So you're in a fight with yourself. Not everything you're saying, basically, but it just really clicked with this girl buying 20 acres. I expected her to just do her own Love Island thing and just go out and gallivant, spend it traveling and stuff, not to reinvest it in future thoughting. So honestly, man, I don't care. I don't like it now. I'm on your pedestal now because I never looked at it this way until now that I'm seeing that how she's using her funds. She's not just spending it on Chipotle like I thought she was. Like, she's actually out here trying to reinvest and spew dangerous rhetorics. because she has a platform, because this is outrageous. So yeah, man, I'm with you now, man. Before you had your tiki torch and your you know what I'm saying, your picket things and all that stuff, and I was like, yeah, I was behind you, man. I was like, yeah, man, turn that stuff off. But now, hey, man, I'll probably just smash the torch out your hand after this, because now I'm seeing the fruits of it. Is deeper than that. Now she's trying to build an army.
Yeah.
And I don't like that.
Yeah.
I don't like
This
that.
this is why, you know, some time ago I made a comment on a topic that we were doing where I was like, I foresee in the future when I mean what I say when I say sex working is becoming aggressively mainstream. This is what I'm talking about. And I see a future in which they're going to start offering up educational programs in sex working. Like, why not? You know what I'm saying? If it becomes a reputable, because not right now, it's more reputable now. But before, it used to lurk in the shadows and be this underground thing. You know, it was, not seen but understood. Now it's becoming this reputable professional industry. And so, what's to stop colleges and universities from offering up accredited courses in how to do OnlyFans, how to do sex working, how to be a thought? You use the expression professional thought, but don't take that for granted. There are going to be professional thoughts, and these people aren't going to be lurking in, hotel lobbies waiting for the tour bus to pull up. They're going to be people with business cards and offices. Like, I feel like that's the role we're headed towards. And I don't think that's fear mongering at this point. I think all you have to do is see the tea leaves of this stuff. It's happening right before our very eyes. And don't come around here to this channel complaining about it when we told you that this is where this stuff was headed. Yeah, she wants to create her version of what Kai Cenat got going on. She wants her own version of that. You think they're gonna be up in the house playing video games and having silly streams? No, they're gonna be busting it wide open in there. What's the statute of limitations on that? What's the jurisdiction on that? I'm pretty sure they're gonna find loopholes in the laws. She ain't gonna have to set up where was that 20 acres? I guarantee you it wasn't in Nevada or any other place where it's legal to do that kind of stuff. So give me a break, man. This is what I'm talking about. And so, hey, look, my whole thing has always been with this stuff. If this is the world that we want to live in, fine. I can learn to reconcile how much I am not happy with this, with the fact that this is the way the world is. What I cannot stand, though, is the double talking of a lot of these people out here who complain about women and complain about men, and they complain about dating, and they complain about marriages, and they complain about infidelity, and they complain about loyalty. All of these people complaining about all of this stuff. And they're the same people who subscribe to OnlyFans. They're the same people who pay individuals like her, who fund her stuff, who fund her platform, who sustain her livelihood. It's the same people. So which is it? Because right now I'm confused. If she makes enough money to earn $95 million in a year, or however much she earned in the calendar year, it tells me that we're okay with this. We're okay with it. Like, it's permissible for us. So why is the internet replete with all of this commentary about the sad state of relationships and male-female dynamics?
Yeah, pick your struggle, man.
Yes, please. Can we please pick a side and just stay there? Because right now, people don't know what the hell they want to do. You want to subscribe to this stuff, but then you want to complain about women. You want to be red pill and you love platforms like Fresh and Fit because they expose the thoughts, but you want to date those same thoughts. You're just upset and jealous and mad because you can't. So I don't get it, bro. But she is a shimmering example of this. 20 acres is a whole lot of land. Look it up. That's not a small plot somewhere. We're headed down this road. So I didn't mince words. Like when I say aggressive mainstreaming of sex working, I mean this specifically. I'm not just using that as a euphemism. That like I mean literally, we're headed down this path where if you try to infringe on someone else's right to be a sex worker out in the open, you're the one who's in the wrong, not them.
Mm-hmm.
I.e., that one chick that we talked about way back in the day, where she dropped her kid off to school and she had her OnlyFans advertised on her car. And the school told her this violates conduct policy.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're going to insist on dropping your kid off to school, you need to park your car or do it across the street.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Go park across the street, walk your kid over, but it's against policy for you to be driving up here and you have your OnlyFans and your sex working platform advertised on full display at an elementary school.
It was crazy, man.
And she got upset. She got upset. She felt like the school was in the wrong for that. So, you know what I'm saying? I'm not making this up, people. So, it is what it is, bro. If we're good with it, fine. I'm good with it. But if we're not good with it, then we need to do something about it.
Yeah, and I'll say this in closing, man, because I agree with everything you said, because I always agree with it, bro. But again, it's just something that clicked with this girl buying that land. And it's, I thought she was just going to blow it on thought stuff. You know what I'm saying? Go to Dubai and do all that other stuff that, these airheads do. You know what I'm saying? I didn't think she was going to reinvest, but she's not the only one that does. And, she's not the only one pumping the new generation of young ladies growing up with dangerous rhetoric. And, for whatever reason, I would just always dismiss it. But it was just something about this story about her reinvesting it for a streamer house, because I already know where that's going, as we mentioned. And so I like the adage of, you're funding a war machine. And because it is a war at this point. You know what I'm saying? The status of relationships and marriage right now is absolutely in the gutter. It's disgusting right now because of a lot of factors. But one of the main factors is this transactional thing that we got going on, and amongst other things, and funding this lifestyle, either physically with money, or as you mentioned, bro, with the likes and all the other stuff, adding to the marketplace. Yeah, you gotta defund the machine. So I'm here with you, bro. I never really wasn't, but I like the fact that, just defunding the war machine. I can live with that, because before I didn't take it as a war. I would just like teach their own. But this is actually a war at this point. And or she's a general or something, because yeah, man, she's a dangerous person, man. So if she keeps this up, which she can go through this to well in her 30s, just playing this stuff and being a celebrity for this lifestyle, which she kind of already is.
Yeah.
So, but at that point, she's going to be like a Kardashian of it, in a way. She has her own reality show. She has this. She's going to be platformed for this even more. And that's the part about this that we got to defund that. So, I know, hey, if you guys are watching it, you guys are conscious approachians. You guys are already defunding it somewhat, right? But now we're all hands on deck, man. We cannot give these people platforms, and if we do talk about them on our platform, it's to deplatform them.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
crazy stuff.
Yeah, very crazy. I can't stand it. But at the same time, there is a small feeling of vindication that I get whenever we broach these topics, because it just affirms everything that I've been saying for years now. So
crazy, man.
And now we move right along to Steven Jackson, Stack 5, one half of All the Smoke.
Friend of the channel, man.
Yeah, friend of the channel, Steven Jackson. We talked about his co-host Matt Barnes last week for shelling out $61,000 for nothing. And now Steven Jackson is offering up some words of advice or some words of wisdom to Ja Morant, who, Ja Morant, his career has fallen on relatively hard times when compared to what his initial projection was. There's been incidences with Ja Morant, suspensions, guns, all kind of weird stuff with Ja. When you couple that with his injuries and being in and out of the lineup, not being available, his career has just not been what it was thought to have been or what it was supposed to be. And now, the team, Memphis, is not good, and they seem to win games more when he's hurt and not playing. And so here's Steven Jackson trying to kind of put his words of wisdom into the atmosphere in the hopes that Ja can see the light and maybe adopt some better habits and behaviors. So here's Steven Jackson with what he has to say about Ja.
First, for Ja to eventually get to Memphis, it's just he got to Memphis and tried to embrace that culture and became somebody he's really not. Yeah, I said he betrayed, and he's been in some situations. He was around people that he didn't normally hang around. Ja just wasn't that person. So now he's trying to assume that character. I got to be this tough guy. I got to point guns. I got to do all. You're not NBA young boy. You ain't never shot at nobody. You ain't never been in no like this. Ain't nobody never shot at you. Leave that away from basketball. Yeah, you made some mistakes. Let the mistakes go. The persona you trying to carry now, like you just hard dude or something like that, instead of just being it's a difference between a hard dude and a stand-up man. Mm-hmm. And I'm gonna keep it real with you. At one point in my younger years, I wanted people to know I'm hard. But now I stand as a man. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So you know how I'm coming. And with Ja, I think he's more worried about wearing these Nike Techs and being an NBA young boy. You're not him. Be Ja. And I think that's when he'll start coming back to the expectations that we expect from him as a basketball player. And he has to understand that coming from us, it ain't personal. We fans of you. But what you're doing, we have seen because we have made some of these mistakes. And we've seen where these mistakes take us. Point blank. Make better decisions. Like Clay say, be accountable and have more respect for other people, bro. Because one thing you cannot do, you can't be somebody else. Everybody else is already taken. The best thing you can do is be yourself. I would say this.
So there you go. That's Steven Jackson and some comments towards Ja Morant. So what do you think about that, man?
Oh man. This is just another prime example of right message, wrong messenger type of situation. Wow, Stack 5. Right. Was well in his 40s. Yeah, man, I'm gonna say it. He was posted up on O Block recording a video. All right, saving it to his phone. All right, uploading it to Instagram, writing a status, and sending it out for the world to see that he's out there on O Block keeping it real. All right, a grown ass man. Oh, yeah. Now, granted, that was some years ago, so he might have changed because he said now he stands as a man. But, bro, just a few years ago, you were in a place that you didn't belong. You were in a place that you weren't from, trying to hang out with people that you don't really hang out with, to check in, to prove to the internet that you are hard. So you're fresh off this, bro. I can see now if we talk about Malice in the Palace, and that was your only faux pas, then at that point we can go, hey man, yeah, you were in your 20s, man. You was a young man like Ja is, you bumped your head up against the wall and you realize that there's bigger things in life. But you was doing this when you had grays in your beard. So you're fresh off this, bro. Who are you to say this type of stuff? Because honestly, I don't think that part of you has gone anywhere. You know what I'm saying? So I don't care for all of his enthusiasm in this clip. Much like how I was talking about when we were talking about Dr. Cheyenne Bryant, and I was like, if you came at Shannon Sharpe basically on some stuff like, hey, I'm messy too, so I can see the messy in you, And I'm just trying to let you know peer to peer that ain't where it's at if you didn't already know that. If Steven Jackson came at this with a lot more humble, bring his voice down a few octaves and actually express to him in a concerning type of fashion that, hey man, I was once in your shoes trying to do all this stuff, being stack 5 and all this other stuff. And I wasn't really about that action either, but I was out here posing. And that got me in these types of scenarios. If he came at it with a lot more of humility, then I would have been down for this type of message. Is he correct? Yeah. But if I was Ja, I don't want to hear this. If I'm already this turned up young man as you claiming that I am, Steven Jackson, I don't want to hear a message like that, especially in that tone. I'm going to turn up even more low key because I don't like how you came at me just now. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So if you are the sensei at the top of the hill of being a YN, you know what I'm saying? Speak to him in a context that that you would understand when you were his age. Because right now, if somebody came at you like that when you was Malice in the Palace stack, you would probably want to fight him right there on the spot. So, which leads me to believe that he hasn't really changed himself in Steven Jackson. So yeah, John need to calm down. He does need to calm down. All right. But at the same time, man, getting a young man who is constantly, let's say for instance, always getting in fights in school, always getting suspended, damn near got expelled and stuff. This is a turned up kid. All right. One thing you're not going to do is get to that kid by yelling at him. That's why he got in that situation in the first place, through trauma and all that other stuff. So be humble, talk to the kid, connect with the young man, but just yelling at him and posting it on social media for the world to see so they can pat you on the back is weirdo behavior. I'll get off my soapbox, man. But what do you think about Steven Jackson calling out Ja Morant for not being like that for real? And tell him the coolest jacks. What are your thoughts, man?
I think that what he said is true. Mm-hmm. However, I also think that if Ja were to say, bruh, look at what you was just doing a few years ago, why should I listen to you? I'd also say that's true too. Mm-hmm. Steven Jackson, when he checked in with O Block, that was on June 28th. Oh no, not June. That was in 2022 sometime.
Damn, that was loud, yeah.
It was a while ago, yeah. So that was like in June 2022 when that happened. So he was about 44 years old when he did that, right?
That's post George Floyd, by the way.
Sure.
And he's still acting like that.
Absolutely. So that's the thing that makes him saying this difficult to take in is the fact that, as you put it, it's not like he was in his early to mid 20s and checking in on O Block, and now he's learned and matured and behaves himself in a more refined manner. He was literally just checking in at 44 years old. So it's hard for anybody, if a person were to take his comments to task, given the fact that he was checking in at 44 years old, they would be well within his right to do that. And by the way, those aren't the only fisticuffs that an older 35, 40 plus Steven Jackson has been involved in. That's and the O Block thing wasn't a fisticuff, but it was a matter of posting some sort of a comment that brings home the point that I'm down and I'm hard and I'm tough and I'm in the trenches and I'm in the street.
Right.
Yeah. And so an individual who was curating content of that sort at 44 years old, telling how old is Ja Morant? Ja Morant is
24, 25.
Ja Morant is 26.
Okay.
So an individual with that profile telling a 26-year-old to calm down, again, on its merit, does make sense. But if one were to analyze the messenger, it would not be beyond the pale to do such a thing. Now, I'm not gonna, if Steven Jackson is a late bloomer and figured it out late, then fine. I'm not going to take that away from him. But at the end of the day, Ja Morant is a 26-year-old young kid. And, Steven Jackson was acting a fool in his 40s. And so it's difficult to reconcile that when taking into account how seriously one should take his comments. So if a person were to point that out, I'd understand it.
Yeah, and that's why I said, man, if he came at it with a lot more humility, then I would have been on his side, with this. And I still would have made an O Block reference, for jokes.
Yeah.
But I still would have said that, hey, man, that's the right way of coming at it, by acknowledging the fact that you fell on your face, trying to be, this person that you're really not, trying to prove stuff to the world. You know what I'm saying? But he mentioned that in there, but with a lot of other bells and whistles and fireworks. You know what I'm saying? And so again, which leads me to believe that he hasn't really learned from them lessons. And one thing he gonna do, he's gonna cap about it if he so happened to get into a situation. God forbid, I ain't wishing that on a man, but if he does get into a situation, hell, that was just last year when he was in the locker room, or that was this year when he was in the locker room talking about he gonna burn somebody.
Yeah, the big three. Yeah,
that was this year.
And there was also a situation. I believe it was the Canelo Alvarez Terrence Crawford fight. I think, where he got into an altercation with like Canelo's family or something happened where he was trying to step in front of line, and he was trying to do something he wasn't supposed to do. And there was a conflict or an altercation that ensued as a result. This was literally like, it may not have been the Terrence fight. It may have been the fight, Canelo's fight before Terrence, because the Terrence Crawford fight was this year. And I don't think that was a situation that happened this year. But there was some with a Canelo fight. He was there, and there was a situation, and the law had to get involved and all of this other stuff. So at the end of the day, man, Tigers typically don't change strikes. And while it sounds good what he's saying, the problem with him talking like this is even now at a moment's notice, if something pops off, he's going to revert to doing the tough guy stuff.
Exactly.
So it's just difficult for you to tell somebody else to not do the tough guy stuff, unless in his mind, he's thinking of it as, that's not really him, but this is really who I am.
Yeah, he really about that action, and you not, y'all.
Right.
Come on, bro. What are we doing? Bro. No, because I was willing to give him grace, because I'm thinking that, O Block was a few years ago. But just this year, I think we've covered it, where he said he's going to burn somebody in the locker room. What are you talking about? So that was this year. You ain't never shot nobody. You ain't never been shot. Give me a break, dude. Get out of here. I'm so done with this dude, bro. Man. Right message, wrong messenger, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, hey, Stack, I hope this come across your feed, because you wanted that to go across Jaws. This is going to went across yours. Tighten up, bro.
Yeah.
Grow your ass up.
I think where he's coming at it from, and what will make, and to be reasonable, if you were to sit Steven Jackson down and ask him if he thinks he's in the right for any of this stuff, he'll probably say, no, I'm in the wrong. He'll probably say my behavior is not appropriate, or it's not okay what I'm doing or did or have done or whatever. But the fact remains, if triggered, he'll still do it even to this day. And I would imagine in his head, him and Ja are different in such a way that he's actually really cut from that cloth and about that life. And Ja Morant is actually some suburban kid pretending. And so for him, I won't say it makes it permissible, but I guess in his mind, the way he rationalizes why his situation is different from Ja's is because of that. Now, I think that that's bogus, of course.
Yeah.
And I think that you need to set the right example, and don't give people the opportunity to throw stones at a glass house on your behalf when you talk. And you need to be consistent with your rhetoric. But I would imagine in his head, he thinks it's different because he's really about that life. But I think that that's BS. And I feel like if you're going to tell somebody else to act right, you need to, especially now at 47 years old, to act right as well yourself.
Yeah, I'm done with Steven Jackson, man. It's not like I wasn't done with him already, man. But those two belong with each other, like we said last week with Matt Barnes, man. because they should rename that to all a cap, because that's all they do. That's all they do. And it's just some cap ass dudes, bro. Excuse my French, man. They done turned me up with all of this 2 weeks in a row. All right, these guys cannot keep themselves under control. They can't. You know what I'm saying? Because when you capped out like this, you can't resist. So sorry, guys. Both of you clowns can get the hell off my platform. Guys. Yeah, man, get out of here, man. Unbelievable, bro. Crazy.
Hey, bro, that rant deserves a round of applause.
Yeah, man. Yeah, bro. Bro, this guy, he has a special place that irritates me, bro. I rarely get turned up like that. Excuse me, y'all.
Oh, Steven Jackson, man, friend of the channel. Right message,
man.
wrong. Right message, wrong messenger.
Yeah, man. Crazy stuff, though.
Last but not least, we touch on the cancellation of Ebro in the morning. Hot 97 has canceled the long-running morning show hosted by Ebro Darden with co-host Peter Rosenberg. And Ebro has his theories as to why the show was canceled. He believes that he was conspired against. He thinks that, the person who's running the show is involved in a casino deal and any casino dollars, and those casino dollars can't be compromised by his progressive anti-government rhetoric. And so he believes that his show was canceled because of that. There are greater forces at work conspiring to keep Ebro down. So this says Ebro Darden theorizes Hot 97 show was canceled over his Netanyahu and progressive views. Ebro Darden thinks he knows the reason why his show Ebro in the Morning on Hot 97 got canceled. Darden revealed his thoughts about the situation in a video he shared while sitting in his car. So I'm not going to read the quote because we're going to let the man speak for himself. Earlier today, Ebro announced on X that his show was finished. It's done, more to come. Hashtag Ebro in the Morning. After that, Peter Rosenberg, who was a co-host on the show, shared his own message about the situation. I lived out a childhood dream and it was amazing. Very excited for what's next. Hashtag Ebro in the Morning. Hashtag real late. Ebro in the Morning had been on air since 2012 when Darden returned to the morning time slot after he previously occupied it from 2004 to 2007. Earlier this year, Darden started dropping hints that he thought his show was on the chopping block after Funkmaster Flex changed time slots. They're going to start this program right here. The amount of money they spend, which ain't a lot, but it's more than they spend on the rest of the radio station. When they get to cutting off fingers and toes up here, it's going to happen, bro. Don't play with these people, man. So here's Ebro and his thoughts on what got the show canned in the first place.
You look around all the major media outlets. Look at all the major media outlets, man. All of them. Look at all of them. They all got to fold up because they all trying to renew their deals, their licenses. They all, well, in this particular situation, we'll get into more specifics another time. Bro's a casino owner. You know those 3 licenses that they got here in New York City for the casinos? The guy that owns the shit owns one of the casinos licenses. He got to raise $500,000, bro. $500 million, excuse me. They need my shit talking anti-Netanyahu, anti-government, progressive shit out the way, bro. They need me out the way. They trying to get to these bags that these VCs got, raise some capital. They don't really care, like, especially for like a Hot 97 and a WBLS. They don't give a fuck about hip hop or black music or black community.
Oh, brother.
None of that. They give a fuck about access. They give a fuck about being able to bring their little nerdy friends to the concerts because that helps them raise money. They've been trying to get to me for years, bro. Years. But, you know.
There you go. They've been trying to get to him for years.
What is he talking about, bro?
Years they've been trying to get to him, and I guess they finally got him. Floor is yours, sir. Ebro in the morning is now done. That's the reason why.
Listen, bro. I'm pretty sure they did some number crunching and saw that you ain't it. And if they are trying to raise $500 million, they ain't gonna get it with Ebro in the morning. They did the numbers, they ran their little analytics, and they said, if we're trying to get $500 million with Ebro in the morning, okay, we'll be running this for 500 million years. All right. So we're not in the business of losing money here at Hot 97. So let's put Funk Flex in, let them drop a bomb on your ass, and you're done. Ebro has been done since, what is it, 2004, 2007 was his first stint. That's when he's been done. He should have been off the air. Rosenberg should have been off the air. But of course, he's trying to spin a narrative here, saying because he's a rebel, trying to make himself look cooler, as if he wasn't part of agendas that were being pushed from 2012 up until now. Because when they gave him stuff to say, talking points, political, social, and stuff like that, he went along with it for 13 years in a row. So now all of a sudden, you're anti-government. Since when? I'm not saying he's pro-government, but when has this guy been out here standing on business for the people? I've never heard that. Oh, they don't love hip hop. Hot 97 been stopped loving hip hop. What are you talking about? So you've been the beacon of hip hop on Hot 97 for the last decade or so? Is that what you're trying to suggest?
I'm sure that's what he believes. Yeah.
Well, I can't go for that. And I don't think anybody else that has watched any of his interviews or heard any of his takes would say that he's pro hip hop like that. I think he puts on a lot as though he's pro hip hop. But overall, I think the guy has been a clown. A worst version of Breakfast Club. Because, Breakfast Club, they'll take it there. And Breakfast Club is full agenda mode. Okay. And they'll take it there with all the jokes, with anything, with all the guests. You know what I'm saying? But you over there, Ebro, everything that you have done, the people that you've interviewed, the way that you've done it, the way that you've disrespected the artists that come up there to talk, Rosenberg too. Okay. It didn't become a hot spot anymore. Hot 97 precedes itself. You know what I'm saying? You say Hot 97, everybody know that radio station. I can't name, I know the ones in Miami. You know what I'm saying? But I've been in Texas for a minute now. I don't even know the local radio station. I don't. But I know Hot 97, and everybody across the country does. So the name precedes itself. So you're already working with a hell of a brand. You already had a hell of a time slot, and you did nothing with it. So I don't want to sit here and cap for people that are lobbyists and record labels execs and all this other stuff. But honestly, bruh, you don't drive into traffic. You just don't. You've been sorry for years. And for the longest, I've been trying to figure out why is he still on the air? So honestly, him getting chopped and replaced with Funk Flex of all people. I mean, you in bad shape, bro. Because Funk Flex really ain't no better. You know what I'm saying? But Funk Flex is more hip hop than Ebro. And Ebro heard me say that, or anybody else say that, he'll laugh that off. He'd think that I'm telling a joke. Nah, bro. Funk Flex is more hip hop than you, and that's really a bad thing to say. So honestly, bro, I'm taking a victory lap on this. Yeah, man. I don't know what they're gonna, eventually replace these guys with. Funk Flex is stepping in, but I'm pretty sure they're gonna want some type of Breakfast Club type of situation to, whatever, maybe, possibly, who knows. But right now, as it stands, these guys not having that platform to influence people with dangerous rhetoric, I'm psyched about it. But what are your thoughts, man, on Ebro getting the axe and then saying, hey, man, it's because I was standing on business and they needed me out of there? What are your thoughts, bro?
I agree with pretty much everything that you said there. The only thing that I'll add to it is, I hear this frequently. Individuals such as he, when they lose a position or their shows get canceled or they're taken off the air or whatever, there's this idea that the powers that be, whoever they are, right? The mystical whoever they are, them getting rid of that platform is indicative of the fact that they don't care about the community or don't care about hip hop or black culture or black people or the black community. I don't agree with that. I actually believe that them keeping those kinds of shows on the air is indicative of them not caring about black people or 100%. The black community or hip hop. See, I think the opposite, because and this is just my opinion, but this ties into my overall belief that hip hop is doing a great disservice to the community because of the way that the music industry has mainstreamed one particular form of content. So in terms of what's popularized in hip hop, generally speaking, it's one or two different forms of content. It's either the women talking about sex, prostitution, rap, so on and so forth, or it's the males talking about selling drugs and violence.
Correct.
Like in terms of mainstream popular appeal, hip hop wise, those are the two forms of content that most consistently get the upspin and are put onto the air and get the most attention. And you can also factor in like crash out rap with that. So the rappers who talk about being high all the time, doing drugs, always on the pills and being crazy and high all the time. So those two things, those three different areas, right? That constitutes what I would describe as mainstream hip hop. Mainstream hip hop is the form of hip hop that is most readily consumed. And it's shows, it's radio stations like Hot 97 and those kinds of shows like Ebro in the Morning that features the artists more often than not that create those kinds of music. And it's that kind of music that I would say is more damaging to black culture and the black community.
Yep.
So if you are in control of a content factory and you really do have a disdain for black culture and the black community, as Ebro posits, then deductive reasoning would tell me I'm going to keep that stuff on the air because it creates the pressure chamber, which filters down the damaging stuff to the community.
Correct.
In order to continue to destroy it. So because I think that way, I've never bought into the idea that getting rid of shows like that is indicative of them not caring for black people or the black community. Like, I think the opposite. I think getting rid of this stuff is indicative of them trying to help the community. And I say that facetiously because of the way that the music industry has pigeonholed hip hop into basically 2 or 3 different buckets of content.
Yes.
From a commercialization standpoint.
Agreed.
So if that weren't the case, if the representation of the music was a little more balanced, then I'd be right with him. And I'd be saying, okay, getting rid of this is indicative of them trying to tear down the culture and the community. But that's not the way the industry is currently set up. The way that the industry is currently set up is the promotion and the celebration and the glorification of degeneracy. So if you really want to tear down a community, you would keep open all of the pipelines of the various avenues with which to pump out the degeneracy.
Mm-hmm.
So interview shows like theirs, where you bring on these artists to talk about this music and you play these songs, those are machinations that are appropriately placed in order to be able to fund that agenda. And that agenda, to me, is what made, and so therefore keeping those shows active and operating, to me, is tantamount to said hatred for the community, not the other way around.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not buying where he's coming from that standpoint. I don't agree with that. In my opinion, they probably canned his show because people weren't listening to it like that.
Exactly.
It was probably a ratings, numbers, metrics issue, and the juice became not worth the squeeze in terms of the resources that it takes to keep it going.
Yep.
And whatever the salaries they were being paid were, it no longer became worth it. So it's time to go.
Yep.
But if it was really about keeping the community down, they'd actually keep you around, bro.
Exactly.
Because it continues to fund you continue to feed the beast of the glorification of degenerate behavior that is actively messing up the community.
Agreed, bro. Couldn't have said that any better myself. And there was a clip that went viral recently from an old interview that Ebro did with that rapper boy Astro Kid. I don't know if you know Astro Kid.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? Astro was just trying to promote his music, man. And Astro was basically saying, like, you know, put more of us on, like guys that are just hip hop, you know what I mean? And Ebro was in this lane of, you ain't hot, so I'm not gonna play your stuff. And they were going back and forth. Astro was trying to keep it as humble and chill as possible. He was just trying to voice his opinion that this is a New York radio station. Play more local guys that are keeping it New York and hip hop. And then Ebro was like, you gotta be hot. You know, you ain't gonna get no spins if I play your stuff. I mean, you ain't gonna get no, you know, listens if I play your stuff. Like, nobody want to hear that. And it's like, bro, is that keeping it hip hop?
Right.
Yeah, you sound like one of those execs.
Yeah.
You sound like one of those people on the board. You know what I'm saying? Promoting box rap.
He sounds like DJ Vlad.
He sounds like DJ Vladimir. So I don't want to hear that, man. So there's an interview right out, you know, right. Just go ahead and look it up on, you know, whatever social media platform. It's there. All right. Black and white, caught in 4K of him antagonizing an artist who was keeping it hip hop. Now, granted, you know, Astro, you know, I feel as though if he got spins, if he got promotion, you know, he would have been somebody that a lot more people know about. It would have been more of a niche type of thing, but he still would have had more, you know, name recognition for the stuff that he was trying to do when he was, you know, really making a push. But hosts like Ebro, radio stations like Hot 97 and others, as you mentioned, don't want to promote stuff that keeps it hip hop for real. They want to promote the garbage. You know what I'm saying? Because that's what's hot and that's what's selling. So honestly, there's enough case studies out there. There's enough empirical evidence of Ebro out there not keeping it hip hop. So the irony of him sitting in his car acting like he's Mr. Cool and he's Mr. Hip Hop and the system is railing against him is utterly hilarious. So I don't buy it. I don't care what you're saying, bro. You know, launch your own podcast, you know, do your own thing, bro, and see how much traction that get. You'll see how much the people never voted for you, bro. You know what I'm saying? So I don't care what you got to say, bro. You haven't been keeping it hip hop so long as you've been on that radio station. So I don't want to hear it, bro. It's a good riddance. Funk Master Flex is next, hopefully.
Hey, man, yeah, facts, bro. I really got nothing else to add to that, man. I just think, you know, the easy cop out is they're out to get me.
Yeah, of course.
But at the end of the day, your own words can be used against you, and that's what I'm doing. You know, you
Yeah.
say you're anti-government and they don't like the community or care about hip hop or black people. You are a
Right, bro.
part of the fabric of a form of commercial product
Yes.
that is more damaging to the community than it is to get rid of it and keep it off the air.
Yes, bro.
It's actually more beneficial to keep that stuff going. Therefore,
Right.
it's more beneficial to keep your show on the air if it was really about that. And I don't necessarily think it's about that. I think it's just about your show not being appealing anymore. Simple as that, man. But all of this stuff about, oh yeah, they getting rid of us to silence us because they don't like the community. No, they want to keep you around. Like
Right.
that's why I never bought into the idea. There's all of these last thing that I'll say, there's all of these conspiracy theories about this is when I knew that conspiracy theories with rappers jumped the shark. When Nipsey Hussle became a conspiracy. And you know, listen, I have respect personally for Nipsey. I was actually a Nipsey fan. I was listening to Nipsey before people knew about Nipsey like that. But make no mistake about it, you listen to those album cuts on Nipsey's album, it's still a lot of gang bang. I'm in the streets, I'm doing this and I'm doing that, I'm about that life. Check in, Steven Jackson, O Block type stuff.
Mhm.
And if they were really trying to, in my opinion, this is my opinion, but if the goal was to keep the community in a certain vibration and a certain mindset and keep it in a certain sandbox, I don't believe the idea is to get rid of Nipsey Hussle. I believe the idea is to keep him around because his music in a lot of ways perpetuated a lot of the behavior that keeps the community sequestered into certain boxes. So to me, if it's really about that, it doesn't pay to get rid of them. That's just how I look at it. And I don't think it pays to get rid of these shows if it's really about, you know, keeping the community down. Because I think what keeps the community down is keeping the shows around. So go figure, man. That's just the way I look at it. And again, my central thesis with why I feel that way is because of how I see the way that they've commodified and mainstream the music. If there was more of a balanced representation of the music, I feel more differently. But because that's not the way it is, and it's basically just crash out music, sex work music, or you know, street hustling, drugs, and violence music, I'm sort of compelled to look at it this way. And so it is what it is. Until that changes, he can talk like that, but it'll fall on deaf ears with me.
Yeah, Ebro, you're done, bro. I think it was a topic that we did cover recently where Ebro was in it. And I gave him the 3rd degree there. So yeah, man, more lashes, bro. Whenever you come across my feed, I got the whip out, bro. So Kid Rock, bro, and Rosenberg, bro.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
get on out of here, man.
Watch Hot 97's ratings are gonna go up, and they'll probably find if he's asked about it, he'll find some kind of way to explain about that. I'm pretty sure he'll find some kind of way to explain why that happened.
Yeah.
But bro, maybe it just wasn't it no more. Ironically, they probably got rid of your show because you ain't hot no more. So
no, that's what happened though. You ain't hot, bro. Get on out of here, man.
All right, folks. Good stuff. But as always, it's time for us to cash out of here. We are unlike Steven Jackson going to check out.
Right.
So JV Wins, Dogon SS, as always, Amazon Music, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Download the podcast in all of those relevant locations. Check us out when you're on the go, man. Hit the gym, driving in the car. Also, check out Conscious Approach on Instagram and TikTok at Con Approach, CONAPPROACH. I am on IG at JVWins, JVWINS. People, please have a mind of your own. Think for yourself. Don't be a group thinker. And if you are subscribed to Sohpie Rain's OnlyFans, please cancel the subscription. You are making the world a better place by divesting in this madness.
Yes.
Now, with that said, until next time, keep it logical, stay tight, be safe out here in these streets, and we'll catch you on the flip side.
And the name is Dogon SS. And you can find me on Instagram at Dogon_SS, on YouTube, DraftKings, MySpace, Facebook, Meta, hell, dog. If there's a social media platform, Dogon_SS is out there. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, and follow, and all that good jazz. All right. And as I say every week, guys, we greatly appreciate you guys for watching, liking, sharing, all right, and consciously leaving comments on our videos, man. Without you all, there is no us out here weekly crushing it. All right. So thank you all for participating as usual. And as I always say as well, don't be too high, don't be too low. Keep it calm, keep it chill, keep it player, and don't let anybody get you off your pivot. So until next week, ladies and gentlemen, we'll catch y'all next time. Still got more rings of Robert Ory. Peace.
Yeah, well, we got that December 20th, what, that's Saturday, Texas A&M Miami.
I ain't trying to say nothing, bro. I'm letting the football gods handle it. You know what I'm saying? I ain't saying nothing. You know what I'm saying? Hey, man. Hey, listen. I'll say this. Go Kings. All right, go Kings, bro. I'll leave it at that, bro.
Oh, we will be watching. But until next time, y'all, we are out of here. Another fantastic addition to the stream, man. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. We greatly appreciate it. We do this for the love, man. Thank you very much. And until next time, we are out of here. Peace.
Peace. You already know, man. Go Kings, bro. Hell yeah. Yeah, man.